than any other. To some, they're unpredictable and dangerous.
When I turned, the bear's head was right there.
What, in the water?
In the water. Then it grabbed me by the back of the neck.
Other people think we've got them completely wrong. I'm Gordon Buchanan, and I'm a wildlife cameraman. I want to find out the truth about black bears. In this series, I'm going to try and film a bear family over 3 seasons. From the moment they wake up in the spring, to the time they hibernate in autumn.
Take a dozen fresh bacon.
My biggest concern is my pastry will have a soggy bottom.
Add a dash of colouring.
You're the makeup artist to all the sponge cakes.
Mix in with 2 zesty judges.
It's delicious, absolutely delicious.
Make sure they're not too sharp.
I don't like it.
Lightly sprinkle with a few disasters. Serve up with some hot, tasty presenters.
Didn't see that on the script.
And then bake for your life.
The perfect recipe for a great British bake-off. Tuesday at 8 on BBC Two.
Penny Smith and Sarah Millican sample the atmosphere of the Edinburgh Festival and are joined by Tim Vine. That's the Radio 2 Art Show tonight from 10. Not knowing if they'd ever be found, the Chilean miners trapped half a mile underground finally tell their extraordinary story tonight at 9. Now on BBC Two, Monty has every reason to feel proud.
Hello, welcome to Gardener's World. I'm really pleased with these calendulas. It's a variety called Neon, and it's just one packet of seed, and it's kicking in now, but so much is. It's funny how that when you get to August, it's like entering a new season, because all those plants that depend upon warm weather rather than light really come into their own. And that's the same in the vegetable garden as well as in the flower garden. Now on tonight's programme, I'll be sharing with you all the skills and tips that I've acquired on looking after hedges after a lifetime's obsession of growing them. Carol travels to Yorkshire, which is perhaps an unlikely place to find a garden full of flourishing exotics.
Oh, it's fabulous. It really is.
And you can come with me on a privileged, exclusive tour of the US Ambassador's private garden in London. I really like hedges. I think that they can make as beautiful an arrangement of plants as any border. It depends how you use them. And when we came here, there was nothing in this garden at all, and we desperately needed shelter. So I planted hedges everywhere. And as they grew up, they created microclimates, which made it easier to grow other plants. But also as they grew, they assumed a kind of stature in their own right. And by making different heights of hedge, you get different spaces. So we've got ones that are knee height, some that are head height, and some really tall. But of course, whatever the height of the hedge, at least once, if not twice a year, it's got to be cut. August is the perfect time to cut any hedge of any kind, because the birds have finished nesting and the young have left. Most of the summer growth has stopped or slowed right down. And also, in August, everything is getting a little bit jaded. So if you cut your hedges, suddenly everything looks smarter and crisper, and it gives it a new kind of energy. What I'm trying to do is get a nice, straight, flat surface, but it's on a slope. That's called a batter. And every hedge, even a really tall one or a short one, should have a batter to some degree. And the reason for that is that if the top gets wider than the bottom, which very easily happens with a hedge, it shades it out. Next step is to do the top. The key thing to cutting the top of any hedge is be above it. Be stable and in control of what you're doing. I do love these monumental tall hedges. You know, this architecture that plants can give you, as well as colour and light and delicacy. It's worth remembering that if you have an evergreen hedge that forms a boundary with neighbouring property, there is legislation governing the height that it's allowed to be maintained at. Contact your local authority to find out how that applies to you in your area. But within a garden, it's simply a matter of what you can control, and I think it's worth taking the trouble. This, by the way, is hornbeam, and all these hedges are, because it grows really well on this fairly heavy soil. And it keeps its leaves throughout winter, which turn brown. It's very similar to beech, but hornbeam and beech never grow well together. Beech tends to like lighter soils. When I was a child in Hampshire, it grew very well on the chalk there. But one of the two will give you a really good hedge, which will grow very fast, be easy to keep, and keep colour throughout the year. Of course, what you put between your hedges can vary hugely. And Carol's been to Yorkshire to visit a garden that is just full of surprises.
Look at this. Oh, it's fabulous. It really is. It's marvellous.
About 9 years ago we went to the Eden project,
Yeah.
and I saw all these tropical plants, and I just wondered if I could grow them in Yorkshire. I just keep buying plants and having nowhere to put them, so I have to dig a little bit more grass up till eventually we've ended up with no grass
No
at
grass
all.
at all. Who wants grass when you can have this?
Yeah.
You know, it's like an antique shop full of all these
Plants.
treasures, but it's all living.
Yeah,
I mean, which are your favourites? I bet it's difficult to choose.
it is difficult, but I really like this Impatian Congo cockatoo.
Which gives a clue to where it
Yeah.
comes from. How do you treat that in the winter?
Well,
You can't leave it
I
out,
take
can
it
you?
up and put it in a pot and then
Right.
take it into the house.
I mean, it's not the sort of busy Lizzie that
No.
we're used to, is it? It's so packed with exotic plants, isn't it? Any more special favourites?
I really like this little gentian.
You wouldn't think it was a gentian
No,
at first,
no.
would you?
No. I bought one,
Yeah.
thinking it was blue, and then when it actually did flower, it was white.
Yeah.
And when I've looked it up on the internet, it's a bit rarer than...
It's definitely
blue.
rarer. I mean, the blue one's special enough,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these plants are from all over the world, and people, there's a sort of mystique, but a lot of them are straightforward to grow,
They are,
aren't they?
really, yes.
And some of them are really easy to propagate
They are.
too. And I know you just love these aeoniums. So if you've got a plant with a straightforward rosette like that, how do you tackle that?
Just cut it off 2 or 3 inches from underneath the rosette
Yeah,
and leave it to callus over for a couple of days.
yeah.
And then just put it in 50-50 compost and
Just push it
grit
down.
sand.
Yeah.
Just push it down, water it, and then just stand it in the greenhouse. And about 4 weeks, something like that, you'll find that roots have developed.
Yeah, but unusually, you've got a few shoots on these that are actually beginning to produce flower.
Yeah.
And once they flower, that whole rosette,
Yes,
that
it
whole
is,
top
yeah.
dies. So what would you do in
They'll
that
just
case?
come in again and just cut it off
Yeah.
like that, and that's discarded, and then it produces these little...
So it makes lots of
babies.
little babies of
Yeah.
its own volition at the top
Yeah.
of the stem.
I just leave a few on to grow bigger, take the babies off and propagate them. And these are the ones that was cut back like that last year.
Apart from the tea, Linda. You'd hardly believe where we were. You've got catalpas in flower, you've got great Paulownia, foxglove trees. I mean, it's just so wonderful. What's your regime then? What do you do first thing in the spring?
Well, in the spring, before things have taken too much growth, we sprinkle chicken pellets. That gives everything a good boost.
Yes.
As the season goes on, we then feed with tomato food.
Because the tomato food's got plenty of potash in
Yeah.
it, so you get marvellous flowers.
Yes, you do. And palms, we use bloodfish and bone. That just keeps them well fed.
And what about watering generally? As you've such a lot in pots.
Yeah, well, the pots have to be watered every day, and if it's really hot, we do them twice, morning and evening. We generally try to do the garden every day, usually at night when it's a bit cooler.
What sort of plants would you recommend? Because you must have had lots of successes, but a few failures
Yes,
too.
I have, yeah. Aroids, like dragonarians and Ericenias, they're quite easy to do. You can leave them out as long as you put mulch on for the winter.
They have this wonderfully exotic sort of
Leaf,
look, don't
yeah.
they? I mean, you've won there a beautiful Ericenia with that little epilobium, that little white willow herb, but it's
That's
sweet.
lovely, that, yeah.
That's a smashing plant.
Yes,
but,
and
you know,
it's not so bad as long as it's got a little bit of shade
yes.
and it likes
Plenty of
water.
moisture. Because a lot of these hardy plants just mix in together with the
Yes,
things
they do,
that
yeah.
are more tropical. You love them, don't
Joyfully.
you, Linda?
I do. I'm never tired of it, I don't think. I just love it too much.
You can see Linda's garden for yourself because it's open this Sunday, the 14th, from 10 o'clock to 4 in the afternoon. It's part of the National Garden Scheme. You can find details about her garden and any of the others on the scheme through our website. I do urge you to get out this month and visit gardens because it's a great time of year to do so, and you always bring something back to your own garden at home. Now, I've got loads of hedge cutting to do, and it's hard old work, and I have learnt over the years not to rush it. Just pick away at it, and it'll get done over the days and weeks. So I'm going to take a break now, go and do something else, and then come back and finish tidying up a little later. This time of year, the cold frames always have a number of plants that either should have been put out or are not quite ready, we haven't got a home for. To some extent, that's true of the dahlias and the cannas, and actually I've even got some salvia elegans there. Now all these were taken from cuttings earlier in the year. The dahlias have come through well, and I've now found the perfect place for them. Originally, my plan was to grow these on so they'd be nice stocky plants for next year. But I think that we can get flowers out of them this year, and we can do that in pots. Dahlias are tropical plants. They like warm, wet conditions, so I'm going to give them some extra goodness at the bottom of the pot. I've got 2 barrows here. This is pure garden compost. And then I've got my potting mix here, homemade. That goes like that. Now this is Arabian Night, which has got a really good red flower. And you can see, look, good root system on that. And that actually is the perfect time to pot on or plant out a plant, so that you can see the roots around the outside, but it's not root bound. Now I'm putting these around the outside because it just gives it more room, and the plant will then consolidate to create one mass, whereas if I cram them in the middle, they would immediately be butting up against each other. And I guess we'll start to have flowers in a few weeks' time. As well as Arabian Night, I've also got another good red, which is Grenadier, and David Howard, which is a fabulous apricot-y orange colour with dark brown leaves. Right, so much for the dahlias. Now the cannas. Oh, tell you what, have a look at that. We've got a little visitor. It's obviously not been feeding too much on the cannas. you don't want to know what's going to happen to him. Put that to one side. Cannas, above all plants, are very tropical and lush. They come from as far south as Argentina and as north up into America, so Central America bound. And they love hot, wet, rich conditions. This variety is Durban, and it's notable for two things. One, it has enormous orange flowers, but also has these leaves, which are shot through with stripes of pink, and they get really big and dramatic if it's warm and wet. So I'm going to plant these directly out into the jewel garden, but they would work in a pot. All I would say is give them lots of goodness. They really respond well to feed and water. This time of year it's always a little bit of a struggle to find space for a plant that will potentially grow so big, although I think this year they won't reach anything like their full potential, but I've got a nice space here. In the 19th century, these became very popular for bedding. Then, after the Second World War, cannas went deeply out of favour and were very, very untrending. It was the late Christopher Lloyd who made them popular again at Great Bixter. He famously ripped out his rose garden and used exotics like cannas. And since then, people have realised that they're really good added to the late border, getting that colour and size of foliage. But to help them get the best for the remaining period of this year, because the first frost will just stop them in their tracks, I'm going to give that a really good soak, and then I'm going to mulch it individually. Now, I've been to London, and I've been to see a garden, but not just any old garden, because I've been allowed to go and visit the private home of the American ambassador to the UK, who has a beautiful and enormous garden in London's Regent's Park. Although there's been a house on this site since the early 19th century as part of Nash's great Regency redevelopment of London, the building we see today was built by the Woolworths heiress, Barbara Hutton, in 1938. But the war broke out soon after and she left for America, so she hardly ever lived in it. In 1946, she sold her lease to the American government for the princely sum of $1. And since 1954, Wingfield House has been the official residence of the American ambassador in London. The house is set in 12.5 acres of grounds in Regent's Park, and is the second largest private garden in central London. Only the Queen has a bigger garden, up the road at Buckingham Palace. I'm being shown round by the head gardener, Stephen Crisp. How many American presidents have you met?
5, starting with Ronald Reagan.
I mean, there can't be many people who said that, and hardly any head gardeners. So it is extraordinary. You're obviously very discreet, but what are they like?
All very individual, all very statesmanlike. But President Obama has been here twice, most recently for the state visit, but on his first visit here, after he stepped off the helicopter, he decided that he wanted to exercise his legs and went for a tour around the garden. At the end of the tour, he said, if I'd have realised how impressive this property was, I might have applied to be ambassador instead of president.
He certainly knew how to butter you up. Exactly the right thing to say to a head gardener.
I just need to get that on my CV.
Now you have these formal areas around the house, but really an enormous area of space.
In a way, the garden's sort of two parts. The formal garden that runs to the north and south of the house, but then you have this landscape park, and in a way, that great Yorkstone path is the dividing line between the formal and the more naturalistic.
And these roses, which ones are these?
This is Iceberg.
Yeah, they look very healthy to me.
These are roses from 1985, remarkable, and they are one of those few floribundas that will go on and on. I mean, we look after them, prune them hard, feed them well, and keep them well mulched and watered, and they perform.
This is really interesting.
This is the Green Garden, a relatively new garden, only 5 years old. A living sculpture in a more contemporary style, using just 4 different kinds of plant. The grass is Panicum heavy metal, boxwood hedging, Pachysandra with its lustrous green leaf, and the male fern Dryopteris cristata the king, which is great in a slightly drier situation, but just using a very restricted palette of plants to create a very strong design. Often less is more.
I love the way that there's so much going on, and yet so little is used. As you say, less is more. God, it works. Now this is completely different. Very, very, very different.
This is the summer garden, a garden that I made about 6 years ago now. The inspiration for this garden was Frank Lloyd Wright's stained glass, where he used colour in asymmetrical panels, and I've tried to do that in a 3-dimensional way here using familiar plants. There's nothing rare in here, but by using them in this strong graphic way, it makes for a contemporary appearance and strength of design.
Clearly you're given a pretty free hand here, aren't you?
I see myself as being the guardian and perhaps serving the role of the owner in many other situations, in seeing and doing what I think is the best for the property, for the role that it serves.
And what is the role that it serves?
The house works extremely hard as a centre of hospitality, and we have 7,000 to 8,000 people a year come to the house for all different sorts of reasons: diplomatic, political, business, cultural. We grow a lot of our own material as well. We have a range of glass houses where we, probably uniquely as a private house, grow about 7,000 or 8,000 plants a year. We do all our own bedding and material for inside the house.
I don't know this plant. What is it?
It's Phytolacca. It's North American pokeweed. It's such a terrific plant, wonderful flower that then turn into these green berries that then turn into these berries that almost look like they're made of glass or something. The Americans often go, oh, that plant. Really?
Now, what's this bit of the garden?
This is the parterre garden. It's a formal garden, perhaps inspired in the French style, but in the centre of the garden there's this statue of Barbara Hutton. The statue itself, commissioned by her in '38, was rediscovered in 1989 by Master and Mrs. Price, who found it in Florence and brought it to London, and it commemorates her generosity.
Been laying there all those years?
All those years in the studio, unloved, but she's very much loved now.
Come home.
And come home, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if you noticed, but the hedges at Winfield House were beautifully done, immaculate. And one thing I have learnt over the years is that A, you need to use the best kit you can find and afford, and B, and perhaps more importantly, no one piece of kit does it all. I've got lots of different hedges of different heights and different purposes, and you do need to use different tools to get the best from them. Now, these really tall hedges need an extended arm. These came out about 10 years ago, I think. I remember trying them. They transformed my life, because it means you could stand on the ground and do most of it from ground level, whereas before there used to be trellises and the whole thing was a caper. So with this, has got a really chunky, heavy-duty battery, which lasts for about 40 minutes, which is the time it takes for the second battery to charge up. If you buy this with a spare battery, you can actually keep going all day long and just keep changing the batteries over. The beauty of this is it's lighter, it's not very noisy, you still need to wear eye protectors, and this box, which has been growing out, which I want to become into rough topiary, is a perfect example of where this solid, heavy-duty but electrical machine works. A rough shape on that. In fact, This is the start of the process of making this into topiary. And it copes with really quite thick branches. But if you see, it's got... Take the battery out to make it safe. You can see here that there's really quite thick gaps between the teeth. And to do fine work like this box hedge, that's too crude and it tends to crush them. If you have a finer one like this is another electrical machine, very, very light and much finer teeth. The disadvantage is you've got to plug it in. In a garden like this, it means yards and yards of wire, and if it rains, that's no good, and I'm forever cutting through it. But very good for doing fine work. Mind you, the simplest thing of all, and the most old-fashioned, is often the best. A good old pair of garden shears. This pair, heavy duty, I could easily cut that hedge with it. It would be hard work, but it would work, and it would be much, much cheaper. You can buy really good ones for about 50 quid, and they will last you years and years. And if you're feeling a bit expansive, you can get ones like this. These are Japanese shears designed for topiary. They're razor sharp. They're about twice the price of the other ones, but about half the price of the cheapest of my hedge cutters. And what they do is they just give you an exact edge. So if you want to make topiary, or if, say, we take this bit here, I can shape that and get it perfect, down to an individual leaf. Now, whatever hedges you've got, what I would say is just consider the most suitable bit of kit for it. Buy the best that you can afford, and that will save you a lot of work, a lot of time, and in everything but the very shortest term, a lot of money too. Good kit always lasts. Now, if you're planning to go on holiday, you're probably trying to forget about the garden. But here are just a couple of jobs you can do before you go away so that it stays looking good till you come back.
If you don't have anyone who can come in and water your pots for you, gather them all together in a shady sheltered spot. Give them a really good soak, and if you've got a tray or a basin, stand them in that, so they can slowly draw up water while you're away. If you've recently planted soft vegetables like lettuce or chicory, you'll need to water them really well and mulch them with compost. This will keep the moisture in the soil and keep them growing happily until you return. Before you leave, go through your vegetable garden and cut back bolting stems. Also harvest anything that's ready, and if you've got time, freeze it for your return. If not, give it away to friends, or if the worst comes to the worst, put it on the compost heap. That way, you'll have a fresh crop to pick when you get home.
Now, clearing up hedge cuttings is always the drudgery that follows the work, particularly if it's in a border, because you more or less have to do it with your hands without damaging the plants. But on grass like this, it's not too bad. And summer hedge prunings make fantastic compost, because you've got lots of green material, which is rich in nitrogen, and yet lots of stemmy but soft material that is rich in carbon. And it really rots down quickly if you can chop it up. You can push it through a shredder, or you can do as I do, which is to mow it. And if it's very twiggy, you still can find a really good use for it in the garden, because gather up a bundle and pop it down behind a hedge, in a corner amongst some long grass, and that makes a perfect home for all kinds of wildlife, from the smallest insect to hedgehogs and frogs and toads. It's cover that they love, and the loose cover of a bundle of twiggy hedge trimmings is just perfect. However, this is all pretty soft, and I'm going to mow this up, and that will chop it up for compost and tidy up for me. Now that's all chopped up, that will make brilliant compost very quickly at this time of year. And of course, it's tidying up as it does so. I've got loads more hedge cutting to do, but I'll plug away. And I'll be back here at Longmeadow next week at the same time. So join me then. Bye-bye.
It was the disaster that turned into a miracle, but the trapped miners made a pact not to discuss what happened. Until now, 17 days buried alive.
Painting is really quite stunning. I mean, there's great detail in that painting. The painter was J.G. Mayer. He really excelled at painting birds. And colours just sit on the surface, and they look really rich there and lavish. You've got plates from the dinner set. That's an interesting shape. Actually, a shape exactly copied from Sèvres. That shape had been made at the French King's factory since the 1750s. And here, Tournai, especially for this service, copied it exactly. But they wanted to do better, and better gilding, and better painting. Do you have a stand for that? Do you call it some other bits?
I'm not sure. Because we have a lot of other pieces, but I'm not sure of the stand.
Because here one's got basically a soup bowl known as an écuelle, and would have had a circular dish on which it sits, painted with the birds, and then all little insects all around in the panels. Actually, that's an interesting shape.
Unusual, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yes. It's actually, holding it there, it's perfectly designed for someone with shakes, because there you are, it's a trembleuse.
That's why I'm not holding it.
That's right. So you can't spill the soup or spill the drink from it.
Right.
Would have had a little lid on the top of that one, so this one's lost its lid. But again...
Well, maybe not. Maybe it's still wrapped up.
It's partly wrapped up, isn't it? So you've got... Well, do have a look for the lid, because that would really finish this off. It would just give it a little bit of extra design on the top. And a slightly different design of gilding on this one. I mean, the service was made in 1787, which of course is only a couple of years before the Revolution. But of course, in France in those days, money really was no object, and so much money and wealth was spent on what might seem a trivial matter, a dinner service to eat off every day. It was a huge set. There were well over 2,000 pieces in all, but the very large part of it is in the possession of the Queen. A lot of it in the royal collection. It was bought in the 19th century, and the Queen has really quite a large part of it. But there are bits scattered amongst collections all over. And as you can imagine, this is quite expensive stuff. Have you any much idea of what this is worth? Have you followed the values of these pieces?
No knowledge at all.
You've got plates like these, which are the standard form of the service, and these were worth between those £8,000 and £12,000 each.
Right.
Then a fruit dish like this from the service is going to be even more. What are we saying? £15,000?
Right.
Just for a dish.
Excellent.
I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it is porcelain fit for a duke, porcelain fit for the Queen.
Yeah.
It is the best.
Glad I never used it.
That's right. But the condition is so good. Do try and find the stand for this.
Okay.
Because then, with its stand, an écuelle is going to be at least £20,000.
Really? Gosh.
And put a lid on that, that's another 12,000, 15,000.
Wow.
So it's all adding up, isn't it? What are we looking
Amazing.
here? Sort of 70,000, 80,000 pounds here.
Gosh. Get home and find the rest.
We couldn't get better.
Wonderful.
A real treat for me to see it, Peter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for bringing it.
Very interesting.
After Sir Walter's death in 1832, his funeral cortege passed by here on the way to his burial, and apparently his horses stopped for one last time so their master could admire the view. And what a sight. From the Antiques Roadshow in the Border Country. Bye-bye.
And the Roadshow returns in the new year. Next tonight here on BBC One and the BBC HD channel, back for the first of two new Christmas specials, The Ladies of Cranford.